Hi, my name is Susan Weimer, and I'm here with a video using some products from Honeybee, and I made some stained glass using the laminating pouches to make windows that Jennifer McGuire had on her blog the other day. And I also used the Gnome for the holidays set from Honeybee. So I really had a lot of fun making this 5x7 card and trying to figure out how to make stained glass. So I have here a laminating pouch from Scotch, my Scotch laminator, some gilding flakes in gold and silver from Nuvo. I'm pretty sure they still make these. And the threshold door die from Honeybee. And at this point, I really had no plan for this card. I was just mostly experimenting with Jennifer's technique. So instead of using glitter or some of the other mediums that she used in her window technique, I'm going to use these gilding flakes. And the reason I chose to do this is that with the other, using what she did, I couldn't get that stained glass look. I even tried putting some alcohol ink on there to make it look like stained glass, but it didn't work the way I wanted it to. However, I did a card a couple of days ago, and I'll link to that in the description box below, where I did put alcohol ink on it to create a window background that was yellows and oranges, and that kind of did look like stained glass, but it was perfect for that card, but not for this one. One thing I want to add is that where there are empty spaces, I could have added just a little bit of glitter. When you add the tiny grain glitter to the laminating pouches and put it through the laminator, when it comes out, it looks like seed glass. I really love seed glass. I have it in my door here at home, and I had it in some kitchen cabinets. So I have my laminator on the 3 setting, and I'm just letting it go through easy peasy and holding it while it does that. And you'll see that the gilding flakes are flattened out, and I don't know if they're actually joined together, but they're certainly captured in there by the laminator. Even when I cut it with my trimmer, I didn't lose any pieces. So that's it. I really like the effect. I could use it for lots of other things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've cut a Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock piece with basically to be the dimensions of the door. You can't tell that yet, but I'm going to do that. I am not die cutting that piece of paper with this die. And right now, I'm trying to find an infinity square die from Hero that will allow me to cut a frame larger than the actual die. So I've trimmed it off, and you can see how it trims so nice and cleanly. I have the Gemini Junior, so I needed to cut the sheet in half. So I'm just going to put these through my die cutting machine, and they come out just perfectly, as you can see. So I have 4 panels. And I've trimmed down that 110-pound backing piece. And first I thought I was going to adhere them behind the first piece, but then realized that they would be more stable if they were adhered right to the panel. This card evolved. I can't even begin to tell you how many iterations it went through, and then I made this first round. I left out a lot of footage because, I didn't film it because I forgot I thought I had turned the camera on. But at any rate, I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to glue the door together. And instead of leaving it mounted on just that plain white cardstock, I'm going to use a pencil and draw each square, and then I'm going to put the windows, my window panes, around those frames. You'll see. It'll make more sense in a minute. Ultimately, I also decided that, and you'll see this later, I didn't like it just plain white. So I die cut a piece of W+9's Dove Gray cardstock and used that as the outer frame. So I'm just using some, I think it's a 1/4 inch score tape, might be 1/8 inch, to use to adhere the laminated window panes. Now, the reason I chose to do this is that if you're using something like acetate, liquid adhesive doesn't work as well as dry adhesive. And this is my very strongest dry adhesive that I have here in my stash. So that's what I did. I want each of these pieces, which are slightly bigger, to adhere to the dry tape so that they don't float around in there. I suppose you could do kind of a floating thing or make a shaker card, but that's not what the look that I was going after at this point. And then I'm just going to erase those squares and then realize, like, oh yeah, maybe I need some more tape. Again, this was just a card that evolved, and I was in a crafty slump, for want of a better word, when Jennifer came out with that video, which I will put the link in the description box below. And I was just really inspired by it. But then the rest of the card took another week and a half to come together. So that'll explain why there's not some footage here in the video. But you can see how nicely that looks, and it's going to adhere really, really well. It's not going to move. Just get it on there, push it down a little bit, and you're good to go. And really, this is as far as you really need to watch. But keep watching if you want to see what I did and didn't film. So now I have the two pieces of the door adhered together, and I'm going to adhere this onto that back panel with some more score tape. Somewhere along the line, as I told you, I decided to add W+9's Dove Gray, onto there instead of just using all plain white. So I wanted to show you how I store my dies. I have a beat up old magnetic shim from my Gemini Junior, and there's so many pieces in this die set. And then I take the pieces that I've die cut, which we won't use anything but the threshold, and put them on there. I can move them all over the desk and I don't lose a piece. So this is my gnomes. I love them. They're so cute. But I didn't film how I colored them, and I'm so sorry. So right here I am heat embossing the other half of the sentiment, and it's going to say "No place like home for the holidays." So I'm trying to make this sign. Basically, this is another part of the card where I just kept experimenting, and here I'm using some my Tombow Mono Sand Eraser. Tombow makes the weirdest things, the weirdest names, and you can see this is just a piece of the W+9 charcoal gray cardstock. So I'm just going to use my trimmer and trim that down because I didn't plan ahead. And again, I was making this card by the seat of my pants, and I think sometimes when you're in a crafty slump, maybe that's what you have to do. I don't know. And this involved many, many texts to my patient, lovely friend Jana Millen, because I got stuck so many times. So I've stamped out the gnome and die cut that, and I think I used a reverse confetti ink, which I will link to that also in the description box below. So here are my gnomes, and I'll have the Copics listed. Here's the sign. Now the sign I just strung together with some dry adhesive and then stuck it up underneath the threshold. And this card is ultimately a 5x7. So I've got a 5x7 piece of, it's a 5x7 side folding note card, and I use the charcoal gray from W+9. So here's the final card. Thank you for your patience. I will put the rest of the details that you'll need on my blog, and I have the descriptions, the products in the description box below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. That would be great, and this was fun to make. Thank you. Bye-bye.